We moved out to a farmhouse ensconced comfortably in one of Michigan's northern forests when I was about 2 years old. I was not excited nor devastated by the move, and I did not yet have the understanding to fully accept what was going on. I just knew my stuff was going to be moved from one room to another and that there was a car ride involved in the process. It was a beautiful yellow house with an old-style weather vane. You know the ones with the glass bulbs and roosters and metal arrows. A red shed stood in the right side of the yard looking out the kitchen window. Bikes, pool toys, camping gear, and various outdoorsy items would later be stored there. Acres and acres of apple trees, some affected seriously by blight, others just beginning the process. A large, slightly dilapidated brownish-grayish barn stood directly in view of our kitchen window. A beautiful farmhouse, really, just a little worn down. I lived in that house for 14 years without ever experiencing anything otherworldly or paranormal. I was just a kid living in the country and loving the freedom it gave me. Four-wheelers are prevalent here, and almost every young child gets one from their parent at some point. We just happen to have a 3/4 of a mile long trail leading back to our camp. Really, it was just an old trailer a family friend gave to my dad free of charge, and I would ride my little Joe Suzuki there for hours. I was never much of a believer in anything those days, including deities or any other form of religion, so I wasn't even freaked out riding that wheeler at night. I'd parked in the barn 1.5 million times before this happened, so I wasn't expecting anything in the slightest. Before going on, I feel the need to tell you the layout of my dad's barn. When you are facing the front of the barn, the left side is basically where you would keep whatever animals you had, if you had any. It's just a large open space that my dad uses for storage now. Continuing on and going to the right, there's a ladder leading up to a loft, which is incredibly unstable, and which I haven't been able to go up to since I was 4 or 5. Underneath that, there's a couple of stairs leading up to a wooden platform where my dad used to store tools and the like. There's a door behind that, which leads to what used to be a chicken coop, but now it stores a large tractor. Then to the front of the platform is another large step, and a small room with a single light bulb hanging on the side wall where my father stores the wood for the house. I was 14 years old the first time I ever noticed something was amiss about that barn. I just finished up an evening ride and was heading back into our yard from the camp road. The light, as always, had been left on in the wood storage room for me, so I could see when putting my wheeler and helmet away. I pulled past the entrance and threw the Suzuki in reverse and back slowly into the barn, just like I'd been taught. No sooner or later had I killed the engine, I heard a snickering, a breathy laugh, and shuffling to the right of me. It was coming from the large open storage area. Thinking it was my older brother just trying to scare me, I fearlessly marched over there to that side of the barn and borderline shouted,
Okay, I've had enough of you games. Let's go downstairs and get some ice cream, you ass.
Then I heard another sound, but this time it was not a snicker. It was somewhere between a whisper and a growl. A noise I don't think my big brother ever would have been capable of making. It sounded very human, yet very animalistic. Instantly, I was surrounded by ice-cold air and a gust of wind that never should have been able to make its way through the barn, and threw my hair in every direction. I should have run right there, should have gone into the house. It would have saved me from what I saw that night. I was a stubborn child though, so I just kept walking in the direction the wind seemed to come from. That detail I don't remember. The next part of this encounter is slightly hazy. Since I've been spending years trying to forget this shit ever happened to me. At the time, a large wheelbarrow rested near the back of the wall. As I approached it, I could see a figure crouched behind it. Not necessarily large, but not small either. Too small to be my brother, though. It was fairly dark on that side of the barn at that time of the night. And since I didn't get a cell phone until I was 16, I had no other way to shine light on this thing. I could see it was dark. Must have been either navy, brown, or a really putrid black. I could see a faint outline of one of its arms, and it was far longer than it should have been in comparison to its relative body size. The fingers too, they each extended at least a foot. Upon the realization that this thing probably wasn't human, I ran, booked it back to my house as fast as my little legs could carry me. My parents didn't understand why I was crying or why I so carelessly left the light on in the barn when I came up. I couldn't tell them what my father around. I just knew he wouldn't believe me, and my brother, he was religious and played Magic the Gathering and believed in spirits in general and otherworldly beings. So I knew I could eventually tell him. My mother was understanding and kind, and I knew I could also tell her, even if she internally scoffed at me. I told him something along the lines of, I saw a large animal, and went upstairs to lay down. I talked to my brother about what happened a few days later. He's quite a few years older than me, and was definitely skeptical at first that something was going on in our barn. But he listened to my story intently and didn't laugh or scoff at me, which made me feel better. He decided that we should first check the entire barn front to back and do some seance type ritual just to see if we were dealing with an actual creature or spirits. I was slightly nervous, but I'd already half-assed convinced myself that what I saw was just some bored kid in some type of costume, so I agreed fairly quickly. We set out around 8 p.m. on a decently warm summer night. Dark was just starting to set in, and it was still light enough that we could actually see inside the barn. The little bit of sunlight that was left shone into the sides of the barn, which you'll see are pretty worn. We set out checking every corner, and after about 15 minutes of thorough searching, we both decided that there was nothing in there at the time. I don't remember the exact words he used in the incantation, but they were just simple. Something along the lines of, if there are any spirits with us tonight, show yourself. Just basic lines, nothing too special. We'd had a few of our mother's scented candles lit around us, and my brother had just brought some salt out there with us just in case. After about 2 minutes of blabbering on to these potential spirits, we were again surrounded by that menacing cold I'd felt roll around me so furiously just 2 days before. It was clear that my brother Derek was visibly shaken by this. He began to shiver and his voice began to break as he continued talking. He asked the spirit to show itself, and for 30 seconds nothing happened. Then once again, I heard that now familiar snickering. It was coming from the same spot. We both whirled in the direction the noise was coming from, and the flickering candles revealed more detail of the being that I'd seen that night before. Its skin appeared to be cracked in a lot of places, and it's almost bubbled up in others. The skin on its hands, though, it was smooth, unaffected by the cracks and bubbles that were everywhere else. The fingers were indeed as long as I thought they were when I'd seen them last time, hanging almost to the ground, and short claws that ended in a point hung off the ends. It was probably about 5 feet in stature, which is just a little shorter than I was at the time. Its eyes glowed pure white in the almost pitch black darkness, pierced only by the nearly microscopic pitch black pupils. It glared at us as though we were surely its next prey, eyes darting back and forth between the two of us. We couldn't exactly tell as none of its other facial features were evident, but it sounded like it licked its lips a couple of times before emitting that terrifying, half-whispered, half-growl.
What the fuck do you want?
Derek screamed as he darted in front of me to protect me. The creature, or being, never answered, just growled again. Just a low, guttural growl that seemed to begin in its stomach and work its way up through its throat. The whisper could be heard in the background of the awful sound, like its actual voice was really hoarse and breathy. I didn't want to keep looking at this hideous thing, but I couldn't look away. It was as if it was forcing me to stare at it. Suddenly, it looked behind us and darted through the empty window space on the door, which led into the area I previously said housed a small tractor. I honestly don't even know how the hell that creature did it, That window is at least 4 feet off the ground and only 3 feet tall. We heard quick footsteps outside and realized that my parents had heard Derek scream and were coming outside to investigate. My father's heavy, leaden footsteps came trudging first.
What in tarnation's going on out here?
He yelled, certainly sure Derek was terrorizing me in some way or another.
Nothing.
Was all Derek could manage to stammer. Why did you take your mother's candles out here? Why are you both shaking? Are you trying to burn the goddamn barn to the ground? Came our father's less than pleased response. My mother was silent as she could see we were both visibly shaken.
Sorry, Dad. We were just trying to do something. It was probably a dumb idea anyway.
It's a good thing Derek spoke because I was dumbfounded. Closed my mouth, which had been agape, and headed into the house when my father commanded it. My brother and I's rooms were on the opposite sides of the house, but that night I camped out on his floor. He'd smoked cigarettes for years at that point, and I'd begun smoking at the ripe young age of 13. We decided to pry open the upstairs window and each have a cigarette after the ordeal so we could at least try to calm down. Of course, that overlooks the barn. We hadn't even taken 4 drags each before we saw not one, but 2 shapes